And we're live, streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and we're delighted that you can join us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the issues and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. We love it when you like and share our videos as it helps our community grow. We recently hit 1,300 subscribers on YouTube, which is wonderful. We started with 100 last year, and it's been a great growth potential. And we love this platform because people who love artists can interact with professional artists. Please use the chat feature to ask questions. We love it. The conversation gets so much more interesting and rich when the audience joins us. So we have a wonderful guest today. We have Miss Robynn Shayne, who is an independent singer-songwriter, country singer-songwriter from Austin, Texas, who has put out 4 highly acclaimed studio albums. She has performed all over, and she is a member of the Nashville Singers Association, the Americana Music Association, and she's also sponsored by the National Beer of Texas and Lone Star Beer. She makes her home in Austin as well, and she's performed all over. She's also performed with Gary Sinise for the Troops, which we'll talk about certainly, and was known for a viral video where she did a cover of a Lorde song that spread all over the internet. I got to see that and was commented by Lorde herself. So we're so delighted she can join us. Welcome, Robynn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Good to see you.
How are things in the Lone Star State today?
Very, very good. Very good. Can't complain. The weather's fantastic. It's casual Sunday. Can't complain.
We've had a soggy it's been a great weather up to the 70s, but soggy all the way today. But what can you do? We're getting our flowers ready to bloom.
Exactly.
On the East Coast. So tell us, did you always know you wanted to be a singer, and when did you start to pursue this passion of yours?
Well, I think at a very young age, I definitely thought I could sing. But I was a very, very painfully shy child, believe it or not. You would never know.
Really?
But very painfully shy. But, as I got older, I remember where I kind of started and where I ever actually told anybody that I thought I could sing. We were at Six Flags Over Texas, which is a theme park here in Arlington. And they have a little karaoke recording studio. And I remember it was always a big deal whenever we got to go to Six Flags. I grew up pretty poor and we didn't go a lot of places. We didn't travel a lot, but getting to go to Six Flags was like a big thing. And I remember walking past and I saw this karaoke studio and I asked my parents if I could go in and sing a karaoke song. And they said, yeah, sure. You can do that. So I went in there and I sang Black Velvet by Alana Miles. And after you sing, you come out of the studio and then they play your version over the loudspeaker, and they started playing it. And my mom started getting kind of mad. She's like, well, I just don't understand why aren't they playing your version? Why are they playing Alana's version? I want to hear your version. And I was like, Mom, that's me.
Wow. High praise indeed.
Even my parents didn't even know that I could sing. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that, with the microphone and such. And
how old were you at that time? If you had to guess?
Grade. So what are you? Probably sixth grade. How old are you? 12-ish, maybe?
Yeah, about that. Okay, so early teens. So you started that process, and I love the story behind that Black Velvet recording. Didn't she have some sort of almost like she was really hoarse and raspy and sick when she recorded that?
Oh, you know what? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she had laryngitis, so she had she was really rough vocally that day, and they went with it, and it's for the history books. That's a great recording.
I'm going to Google that story. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, so needless to say, my parents were like, here's $20, go back in there and go sing another one. And so excuse me, trying to get rid of my calls there. And so even still then, I had zero intention. I didn't play an instrument at this time, and really was just extremely intimidated by the thought of even learning how to play a guitar. And when my brother was 14, he got a guitar. My parents got him one for Christmas that he had asked for. And so he was kind of the musician of the family. And I still, at that time, all I had done at that point was sing karaoke at Six Flags. And after he passed away, I eventually ended up inheriting his guitar. And I just thought, how cool would it be? I think he would think it was really cool if I learned how to take the time to play it. So that I taught myself off of YouTube how to learn how to play guitar chords. And I would just, pick out a song that I really liked. It was usually like Miranda Lambert or Taylor Swift. And I would like just teach myself how to play a song until I could play it all the way through and then move on to the next one. And it's still at that point, it was never anything I intended to do as a profession. But I did my first open mic. And it quickly becomes very addicting. I still hadn't written my own music at that point when I did start going to the open mics, and it was very, inspiring to see some other, new people writing their own stuff. And I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to try that. So it really.
What was in some of those first sets you played?
Definitely Miranda Lambert, Taylor Swift, gosh, Dolly Parton. Maybe some Merle Haggard, that sort of stuff. So, Jolene's definitely one of my favorite songs.
That song never gets old. Boy, there's so many great remixes of that, and everyone kind of puts their own spin on it. I really love that song. It's fantastic.
I love it. Too, I loved it back then because it was like 4 chords. It was easy. but yeah. So I just my very first open mic, I had a couple come up to me and they asked me, would I be willing to perform at their wedding? And of course, up there on stage during that song, I'm just like shaking all over. I'm just nervous as can get, I'll get out. And so I said, guys, I don't really think I can do that. I this is my first time to ever sing in public, So it slowly just grew from there. It became very addicting. I'll back up to another reason why it took me so long to kind of, get started in the music business. My high school, I was in, it was my senior year of high school. I was in a theater arts class, and our theater arts teacher was just incredible. She always put on this big production called Celebration every year, and all the students had to be a part of. You had to do something in the program to get a grade. And for whatever reason that year, I decided that I was going to sing in front of my entire high school for the first time ever. And it was an absolute train wreck.
No.
Again, I still didn't play an instrument at that time. And the lady that I had actually decided I was going to play, the Whitney Houston's version of I Will Always Love You was really big at that time. So I decided I was going to sing that. And so the lady that played piano for me, we had rehearsal. It was great. Well, she got sick. So the night of the show, they had someone come in and fill in, and she didn't get the memo that we were playing the Whitney version. She was doing the Dolly version. I was trying to sing the Whitney.
Oh no.
And so yeah, it was pretty bad. So that kind of scarred me for a while. So it definitely took me a long time to get back out there and want to publicly sing. For sure.
So, sometimes we learn more from those experiences than we learn from the ones that go really well. And I find that musicians who get there, so everyone's got their different path, right? Some people get there when they're super young. Some people grow slowly and they mature, and and some people blossom much later in life. So I think every artist has their own unique path, and it's always interesting to explore this.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So when did you take guitar lessons eventually, or are you self-taught?
Right whenever COVID hit, I actually did start taking guitar lessons. I definitely highly recommend starting off with guitar lessons. It's quite the challenge to already know how to play and then backtrack and try to learn the theory aspect of it. And that was really what I had decided, I really wanted to do. So I did take some guitar lessons early in the year, last year, about a year ago. Definitely intending to get back into doing that again, kind of learn a little bit at a time. But I did some other things meanwhile. So I did set that on the back burner briefly, just, so I could continue writing. Had some projects that really wanted to take care of. And then I also went to real estate school. So that kind of took up a lot of time there for a while. So, but yeah, so I definitely highly recommend taking guitar lessons, just to learn from the get go, to learn the theory aspect of everything for sure.
Well, this just gives you, I guess, more resource as a songwriter to have that theory background, and kind of as you're writing, gives you a couple more choice of chord voicings, and as you just experiment with new things.
Absolutely.
Now, when did you start writing songs?
So, about probably just like a couple of months after I'd done my first open mic, I kind of just started thinking, if I'm going to do anything with this, I kind of need to have my own music. And my mom was a big part of that. She's always been just very supportive, and she always sees something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. And so we were kind of talking about it. I said, well, I probably need to write my own stuff, but I don't even know anything about writing a song. I have no idea how. And she said, well, let's just see what we can do. And so she and I sat down that night, and we wrote my first song, which is called Lover Boy to Lucifer. It's on my self-titled EP that was released in 2011. So yeah, and from there, it really just became addicting, just to see what you can write, and what you can do, progressing, with your music. And definitely to hear my first album to the newest one is quite the change. It definitely see some growth there for sure.
So for you, I always ask the indie artists, all the singer-songwriters I get to interview, I always ask, what comes first in your songs? Is it the melody? Is it the words? Is it the chords? How does your process work?
I will say it definitely varies every time. I would say probably the majority of mine kind of come together. I may hear a phrase, and of course I always try to write it down if possible. And then, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, where could I go with this song? So kind of a little bit of everything. I would say sometimes I have a melody in mind, and then I'm like, okay, what does this melody feel like this song should be about? And just kind of go from there. So definitely varies from song to song for sure.
And does your music tend to be autobiographical, or does it tend to be more abstract? How do you find topics for songs and lyrics?
Pretty much everything, personal experiences. And then if I have friends that are going through something, or like I said, if I just hear a phrase, a lot of my songs are just, I heard a phrase and I just thought, oh, that'd be a good song, so kind of everywhere.
Yeah, art always mirrors life. So and I think especially with the indie movement, I think it's such a powerful thing, because so many artists now have a way to get their music heard, to put it out there to be heard by almost the world, right? So people have, I think artists of the past, I think record companies would create these plastic images of the artists that they wish to promote, but I think today's indie audiences want real people.
Sure. No, I mean, I totally agree. I definitely had my run to, I thought, oh, I'm going to go to Nashville and see if I can, not necessarily make it in Nashville, but we definitely wanted to go out there and kind of scope it out and see what that was about. And I remember meeting with a big company. I won't name their name, but I remember meeting with them. And this actually was probably, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it was, I don't know if you're familiar with Maren Morris, but she was really becoming up and coming, and she's doing fantastic now. But the guy that I met with, he's like, well, do you sound anything like Maren Morris? And I was like, well, not necessarily. I don't sound just like her by any means. He basically shooed me out the door and said, well, go sound like Maren, and then when you sound like her, then come back and talk to me.
Oof, isn't that crushing as an artist to hear something like that? It's like you spend your life to develop your own voice and to come up with your own story and kind of your method of storytelling, and then to be told, sing like somebody else.
Yeah. And so that was actually very eye-opening, and it was actually kind of maybe a little bit motivating for me to just go, you know what? I don't have to sound like Maren Morris to be successful in this business. I may not be making the millions that she's making right now, but, not to say that I couldn't, but yeah, it definitely kind of pushed me to go, yeah, I'm going to keep doing me. And, that's just how it's going to be.
in the end, you have to live with you have to live with yourself, and you have to live with your decisions, and you get to create music your own way, and there's something really satisfying about that, I'd imagine.
For sure.
A lot of your songs I've listened to have a rebellious streak. Is that part of your kind of music making and part of your performing?
Oddly enough, I'm probably one of the least rebellious people out there.
But you get it out in your music. That's great.
Yeah, I just live vicariously through my music. Like, I always say that my brother, who passed away, he was definitely the rebellious one of the family. So I think I just learned a lot of like what not to do from him.
I can relate. I have 3 brothers.
Yeah. So definitely, yeah, I think just, I have experienced a lot in my life with traveling and everything I've been through. So I think I definitely pick up on those experiences, and obviously the music kind of comes out in that. And but yeah, I think probably a little more rebellious in my music than I am in real life. So, but don't tell anybody. So I sound.
But I really enjoy that edge to your music. It's kind of really gives it a real color, and you have a very expressive. Your voice is very expressive, and you really tell a great story. Has that always been the way you've sung? Was that taken a lot of practice?
I would say probably always kind of been this way. I think definitely have gotten a lot more comfortable over the years with being on stage and being in front of people, and more confident with that for sure from, early years. But yeah, so the song, my first song is, Lover Boy to Lucifer it's an angry, guy cheating on a girl song. So yeah, that was the first song I wrote. So, yeah, I just write what I feel, and that's what happens.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, what's it like to listen to your first album now that you have a few years behind you, and it's as the distance goes farther? What's it like to hear the memories that you set down there?
Interesting enough, I just started back to flying last Friday, and I flew with this young lady, and
let's mention that part of your life and your career as well, because that's really special that you maintain a separate career while you're doing music, and you kind of burn the candle at both ends. Share that with the audience.
Yeah, so I've actually been flying longer than I've been playing music. I love that job, and I have a lot of people always ask me, are you going to quit doing that just to play music? And the reality is probably not. I've been there quite a while now, so I'm able to finagle both. I've been able to gain the seniority to get my weekends off, and I can trade my trips around to be able to, maybe I have a writing session or something. So both are very flexible. But yeah, and it really affords me to introduce my music to a lot of new people. Because of the viral video that you had mentioned earlier, which we'll get down to that later. But
absolutely,
that's actually how this lady, this flight attendant, knew about me. And but she had never taken the time to actually listen to my own music, my recorded music. And she said, well, I'm gonna go check it out, and so I'd given her a card with my spelling of my last name, because it's a little bit unique. And she ended up messaging me later. She's like, oh my gosh, I love it. I had no idea. But where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that story. But it's nice to have that option to be able to, kind of get my music out there, to my flight attendant group too. And they're extremely supportive. If we have contests and stuff, I kind of call on them to help me out, but they love it. I always try to fly, I always stay low on the radar at the airline. I just show up, do my job, and leave and go home, which is what I also love about that job. You're working when you're there, but when you leave, it's done. You don't take it with you, which is fantastic.
Very different than the music field, which stays with you, must stay with you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's definitely it's afforded me to see parts of the world. I get to travel and play shows and such, and I get to fly free to get there, which is also super handy.
That's certainly handy, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the first album and what it was like, and the memories when you lock it down in an album. I know anything I've recorded as a conductor, I hear everything that happened on that. I remember everything that was going on that day. It kind of crystallizes in time.
Oh, sure.
What's it like to listen to your own work?
Yeah, so that's what we were going. She said, "Oh, well, which album do you like the best?" And I kind of said, "Oh, don't go listen to the first one. It's horrible." you know, but it also, it's very special to me even still. There's just, it is interesting to hear. But what I love too is when I recorded that first album, I really had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just, walked into the studio and said, "Hey, here's some songs. Can we record them?" I didn't know anything about the production aspect of it, or that I could have really a say so in how I wanted it to sound. So I will say it probably doesn't sound as much like me as it would now if I were to re-record it. But that's what's great, is just finding, the last two albums that we've recorded, and we did out in Nashville with a guy named Sean Byrne at Great Hill Studio. And I met him at a songwriter festival here in Texas. And we had swapped albums, and I absolutely loved his album. And so I got to looking, and it said he produced it himself. And I thought, God, this is beautiful. It's like everything that I want mine to sound like. It had that feel. So I called him up, and so we've worked with him. We just started off just doing one single with him, just to kind of see how is it to work with him. Because like I said, I kind of had an idea now of, okay, I know what I want it to sound like. And that was really nice. So we did one song with him, loved it. He was super great to work with. And he knows tons of just incredibly talented people there in Nashville to call upon to do the music aspect of it. And so it's been nice to be able to have a little bit more control as far as that aspect of it, just to be like, okay, that doesn't really sound like anything that I'm not feeling that, but yeah, so that's how I feel about the first one. Still love the songs. But I would like to, I've discussed doing that, like just doing like a reprise of my first, 4-song EP, just redo those 4 songs just to see how we could change it up a little bit.
That makes sense. Everything's changing when it's set in the studio. Do you still perform those songs in public when you perform live?
I do. I don't perform all of them. Definitely 2 out of the 4 on there I usually do. Yeah, it just depends. It depends on where, the venue that I'm playing. And at this point what's been nice about COVID is I've been able to like dig up all these songs that I forgot that I wrote, so trying to kind of bring some of those guys back into the picture, and yeah, so it's been good just for that,
Describe for our audience what it's like to, when you write a song, you bring the material in, and then when you're recording it and you have the producer, how it changes, right? There's so much that goes into it. Do you find that over the process it changes slightly as it comes to the final product?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does, and I don't claim to be a producer by any means. I definitely rely on my guy who has that ear for all that. I just, definitely have input. But it really is incredible to, have just an acoustic version of a song, and just to hear it slowly come to life is really just, it really is incredible to hear.
It's a process, I'd imagine. It takes, as you get more confident doing what is your 4th album, it must get more like organic as you do it more.
Oh, it's for sure, yeah.
So, how does performance change some of those songs? Do you find that they're different than the album versions? Do you change them as you go? How does that process work for you?
Yeah, there are some. For the most part, we do try to keep it, I want people to hear live what they hear on an album for the most part. And that is definitely one thing that I definitely try to pride myself on. Vocally, I have a lot of people say, wow, you actually sound as good live as you do on an album. And I'll take that. I take that as like one of the highest compliments, because there are people I love their album and then I hear them live, and it's a whole different.
It's a real disappointment. I'm the same way. I'm a conductor, so I work with live choruses and orchestras. And when I hear an artist I love and they can't sing in tune, it really drives me nuts.
I've had some people that I just love, and I saw them in concert, and I cannot get past it. So when someone says you sound just like you do in your recordings, I'm like, awesome. That's what I want.
High praise indeed. So your second album was dedicated to the memory of your brother. You must be very proud to see you out there using that guitar skills and singing away. What was it like to write an album and dedicate it to such an important person to you?
Well, it definitely felt really amazing to finally, it took me a long time to actually write the title track off of that album. Like 18 years before I actually, of course I wasn't writing and such back then. So when I finally got to writing it, it had to be a song that I really wanted to paint a picture of who he was. I didn't want it to be sad and sappy and make everybody cry every time they heard it, because that's just not what I felt like he would want. He was a very just like fun, outgoing, bubbly person, and I thought he wouldn't want everybody, bawling their eyes out every time they hear this song. So it was really intimidating, I guess, to even think about writing a song and then have that fear of it not measuring up to what your expectations, or what if my mom hated it, or I've had people say like, I love that it paints a picture of who. So but yeah, so to obviously to be able to, matter of fact, I've got it right here, so I'm going to
show us.
I remember pictures and see if we can find like just the perfect picture of my brother, and it was like a 1 inch by 1 inch square. It was one, back then you had the little photo frames where you cut the picture to fit in the little square or the little circle. And so this little picture had been cut like a 1 inch by 1 inch square. And it was, Aww. I'm the one with the scraggly hair. My hair hasn't much in all these years. But I just loved this picture of my brother. And so it was, as soon as I saw that picture, I knew immediately like that was going to be the album cover for that. So it was really fun to put that all together. And then on the actual CD inside, it was a picture of our house that actually it burned down now, since we didn't live there when it burned down, but we have a picture of the old carport that was under, my brother and I used to play up underneath there. So it has that carport in there, and just the whole thing is really it was nice to put that together. It was really because he was able to figure out how to get that little 1 inch by 1 inch picture blown up and pixels and all that to whatever. I don't know any of that aspect, but trying to get that little tiny picture blown up to where you could actually tell what it was quite the feat, but he figured it out. So.
Well, you guys are a dynamic team. That's so important to solve those problems. And thank you for sharing that. It's such a great tribute to your brother, and he must be very proud looking down.
Thank you. Thanks.
And shout out to the moms in the audience. They are certainly our biggest fans and supporters, right?
I always say my mom is my biggest fan and my worst critic.
Mine is listening to the show, and she'll give me a report at the end.
Awesome.
For classical music and then contemporary music, and I just love that to hear the artists. We can learn so much from each other across the genre lines.
Absolutely, for sure.
So your third album was nominated for, this is Coffee Days and Whiskey Nights, and I love that tune, by the way. I love that song. Was nominated for Country Album of the Year by the Texas Country Music Association in 2018. What was it like to get?
Well, I mean, definitely just being nominated. I definitely had some really stiff competition in that one, but so just to be nominated was for something we'd really worked so hard to put together. So yeah, that was really incredible. It was a good feeling for sure.
And what are some of your goals now that you've done your fourth studio album? What are your goals now have you used the COVID period to write lots of new material? I know I've interviewed over 130 musicians for the show, and everyone's got a different reaction to the COVID, and then they're just putting their ideas on fire. Some are doing tons of virtual electronic performances via social media. Some are more quiet and reading books and just kind of resting and getting ready for the next chapter. How have you been during this period?
I will say I have probably been all of those things
Yeah.
because we've had plenty of time to go through each step of that. But yeah, definitely it was nice for me be able to slow down a little bit. And I didn't do any face-to-face writings with my co-writes. I did co-writes, but I thought, oh, well, what other options do I have right now besides, Skype or FaceTime, co-writes. So I got the opportunity. Virtually. I got the opportunity to write with, I don't know if he wrote a little song called It's 5 o'clock Somewhere, and you probably have heard that. So I got the opportunity to do a co-write with him early during when COVID, it was probably about, I don't know, about this time last year. And oh my gosh, talk about nervous. I was glad it was not in person. I was glad it was virtual. You couldn't just see me shaking, how nervous I was to get to write with this guy. And
now, which song was that?
So we ended up writing a song called Coming Home. In my head, margarita drinking song. And
Jimmy Buffett meets Shania Twain.
No interest in that whatsoever. He's like, I'm kind of feeling this or that, So yeah, we actually ended up writing a military song. And I love it. It's totally different from what I expected to have written whenever I walked out of that, co-write. But yeah, so I did that, a lot of writing, a lot of projects just around the house too. I find that very therapeutic. I love I can't sit still. I have a hard time with that. I've got to be doing something. I do love to sleep. Everybody's like, how do you? I'm like, you know what? I get my 8 hours at least a night of sleep, and that's how I function throughout the day. But just did some big projects and stuff here around the house that I'd been wanting to do for a long time and just didn't have the time to do it. One of the things I have in our spare bedroom when we bought this house, I don't run it in there anymore. And I ripped it up and I got on YouTube and thought, how did I compare? And there was a video on how
it really is.
So I learned how. So yeah, I painted my bedroom floor to look like a hardwood floor, and you would never know it's not hardwood floors. So that was one of my big projects. And then this rolling door here behind me, my husband and I installed that, which we're still married, so we didn't kill each other doing that. But
it's a healthy way. I know so many musicians who are so devoted that they don't do anything else. I think it's really healthy to have lots of other things to kind of work on.
That is exactly right, how it works for me. I go and I walk away and I come back with a new idea. I go and just a renewed sense of what I'm doing. So
experience with that, especially you did that concert in Las Vegas with Gary Sinise for Salute the Troops. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the way I ended up getting invited to go do that show, I, as I mentioned, work for the airline, and American Airlines is a big part of the support for the Salute to the Troops event. And not only did I get to go perform, I actually got to work the flights out there. So Ooh. Each year they and their significant others and fly them out to wherever. That year it happened to be Vegas, and they just, spoil them for a week as a thank you, as a tribute to all their dedication and hard work. And so they invited me to come perform. So I surprised all I worked the flights, slinging the drinks, and then we got there and I'm hanging out with them and all the other little opportunities that we were given, and then surprised everybody like, oh, by the way, I'm also playing this show tonight. So it was really cool. And then I'd never seen Gary Sinise and the Lieutenant Dan Band. I'd never seen them perform, and that was incredible. Great bass player. So I'm trying to get him play bass for me because he's
What was he like as a person? Was he fun to work with?
It's super nice guy. I love what he does. Super nice guy. Took time to come say hi to everybody. But the opportunity itself was just incredible to get to hear some of the stories. It was very emotional. Spent a lot of, there are a lot of tears that week for sure, just hearing stories. And I try not to think about that too much. I definitely performing those songs. My father-in-law is a Vietnam vet, and one of the songs on the Rebel Child album is called Real Heroes. And I don't perform that one very often. They get me choked up. So I have to kind of zone out whenever I'm singing those songs, because I will just bawl my eyes out the whole time. Just, I've never served, but my best friend, her husband, did 2 tours in Iraq, and you just really you see how it really, really affects the family, and not even just, the soldier going over there, but the family back at home. And I really got to see that firsthand. So definitely very emotional, but it was really, really cool to be asked to join, and the viral video had a lot to do with that. The story of how they found me, because I use a different name on stage than I do my real name. I have my stage name, and after the viral video, which gosh, that's been going on 6 years now. They kept looking. They were trying to find me in the roster at American Airlines, and they're like, "We don't have a Robynn Shayne that works." And
Wow.
I was working a flight. I don't remember where I was working. And I was doing this exit row briefing, and this guy goes, "Oh, are you Robynn Shayne?" And here I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so famous." I'm getting excited. He's like, "We have been looking for you forever, for like a year. You really do exist." And he's like, that's your stage name. So anyway, so he's like, "We've been trying to get a hold of you. We want you to come do this salute to the troops thing." So I'm so glad he was on my flight and I got that opportunity.
Well, it's so great when artists give back, and for such a special cause. I mean, those the service members work so hard, and they do such important work. And any way to bring people joy, that's what the arts can do. That's what we do as artists. So important.
100%.
So tell us about the whole the viral video and cover of her work.
Yeah, so very unexpected. The way that kind of went down. Occasionally, I'll take my travel guitar with me if I have a show coming up. If I need to practice, I'll bring it on my layover. And we were, I had worked a flight out to Vail, Colorado, and we were delayed leaving there. It's, a snowstorm blew through. So had some folks that were like, "Oh, well, why don't you play your guitar for us to pass the time while we're sitting here?" We weren't in flight. And so I did. And one of the kids I was working with took a little video of it, and he originally put it on like our little flight attendant Facebook page. And everyone's like, "Oh, you ought to put that on YouTube." And he did. And a couple days later, matter of fact, I was at my in-laws for Thanksgiving, and it was that morning. I get a text message from a fan, and
Wow.
I said, "Hey, I don't know who you're trying to reach, but I think you might have like messaged the wrong person." I mean, I had absolutely no idea. And he said, "No," he said, "Were you playing your guitar on the airplane?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I did a couple days ago." And he's like, well, he was on the East Coast, so he said, "Well, go turn on the Today Show and watch it." And sure enough, when it came on, I was like, "Oh my God, that's holy moly!" But yeah, so he had put it on like a YouTube, I guess, and then Twitter, and Lord, he tweeted and tagged Lord, and she saw it and went and watched it, and she liked it, and so she retweeted it. And when she retweeted it, that's when it went viral. So pretty cool, though, to have somebody who wrote the song and performed it tell you that they liked your version, because that's, that to me is quite an honor for sure. So that was pretty cool.
High praise indeed. And that's the power of social media these days, is you never know what's going to catch fire and what's going to travel around the world. And if that makes that brings your music to people's attention, that's wonderful. I've experienced a lot of your music on Spotify and on YouTube. What's it like when you get comments from people and people hear your music from all over the world, really?
Oh no, I mean, it really is cool. So one thing, we have the Coffee Days Whiskey Nights album. There's a line dancing group. There's multiple. I went in France and Switzerland, and just occasionally I'll just get on YouTube or Google and see, all right, what's going on the Robynn Shayne world, just to see, and we ran across this video of this line dancing class, and they were playing my song, and I thought, well, how cool that they could have chosen any song, and they chose my song to make up a dance for. So I just thought and that's happened several times, and I thought, well, how stinking cool is that? So it is incredible. And social media, I know a lot of people who hate it, but it is a necessary evil in this, in this business for sure. But I personally love it. It's able to keep me, connected to people. I'm on the go a lot, and I personally love it. But yeah, it is pretty incredible, the power of it, for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And so I heard a rumor that you might play for us today. You might do a song for us on live on the air. What do you think?
Yeah, I can do that for you. I figured let's do the title track off my new album that we released last March. And right before COVID, we'd already, it was already set to release before we knew the, how it was going to go down. So, I'll play you guys the title track off of that. This is, when I was a kid, I'd mentioned we didn't go a lot of places, but whenever we did, my mom would tell us, come on kids, load up, let's load up. Let's get this show on the road. And, so that was always a phrase that I thought would be a good phrase to put to a song. So, and actually my mom helped me write this song. Started off, we'd just be friends, but baby, that was way back then. Times have changed and so have we. So let's see where this road can lead. Boy, for way too long, we've been taking it way too slow. This could be the greatest love story ever told. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get this show on the road. I can't help the way I feel. I'm tired of spinning my wheels. Hold on tight, this might be bold, but I'm thinking, baby, let's get this show on the road. Let's give it a shot, jump in for the long haul. Just speaking my mind, it ain't the alcohol. Well, you said you'd never settle down, but honey, you must be joking. 'Cause we've had some damn good times and rules are made to be broken. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get this show on the road. I can't help the way I feel. I'm tired of spinning my wheels. Hold on tight, this might be bold, but I'm thinking, baby, let's get this show on the road. I've seen that look in your eyes. I know you're feeling it too. Might be a winding road, but a fun little rendezvous. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get this show on the road. Can't help the way I feel. I'm tired of spinning my wheels. Hold on tight, this might be bold, but I'm thinking, baby, let's get this show on the road. Oh yeah, come on, baby. Yeah, what do you say? Let's make it happen. Oh yeah. I can't help the way I feel. I'm tired of spinning my wheels. Let's get this show on the road.
Bravo, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that tonight.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I think it's some great music tonight. What is it about country that speaks to you as a genre? What is it that specific genre that you identify with?
Well, I definitely grew up listening to, lots of old country, Loretta Lynn, Dolly, Merle, George Jones. Grew up listening to that, and then also a lot of oldies. And oddly enough, whenever I started my job as a flight attendant, I was forced to transfer to Chicago. I mean, I had never left my little small town. And so when I was there, I would listen to country music just to soothe my homesick blues. And so, I guess it's something that's been a part of me for so long. I love all genres. I listen to everything. You would never know that Guns N' Roses and Metallica was one of my first concerts, but, I listen to everything. I love everything. And for whatever reason, I tend to write country music. So maybe it's a Texas thing.
Love it. So yeah, it's interesting. As we all genres kind of we're around us all the time. So we kind of, do you find inspiration in other genres when you're doing other things?
100%, absolutely. A song. Matter of fact, I was scrolling through TikTok, which I don't do very often, and there was a video of a Jimmy Eat World song. It's called "The Middle," and if you go listen to that song, it's very hey da 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 da. It's very like upbeat. But for the first time, I actually like listened to the lyrics of that song, and they are absolutely just incredible. So if you get a chance, go listen to those lyrics. And I don't know, it really spoke to me at that point. So yeah, I kind of took that song and did my own little version of it, slowed it down how I was feeling it. And so yeah, definitely inspiration from, all genres for sure.
And how have you seen country music change since your people who inspired you? How has it changed today's country, different from country back a couple generations ago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has a very different sound, and I try to, kind of keep a balance of both. You can't write the same song and the same sound over and over again. It's got to evolve somewhat. So as much as people might say, country's not what it used to be, it's not what it used to be. There are parts of it and tastes of it here and there, but whatever you like to listen to, whatever makes you feel good, that's what I'm like. It definitely has changed for sure, but I don't hate anything. Anybody who's got some talent and putting their time and effort into it, I have respect for that.
I'm the same way. I'm fascinated to watch the differences between, like, if you go all the way back to Hank Williams, I mean, everything's changing. No genre has been the same. Even classical music changes. If you listen to recordings from the early recordings up to today, tempo are different. Everything's different. I mean, every artist puts something of themselves in the work they bring.
Absolutely. Got Hank and then Garth, country, but very different.
There's a lot more rock and roll in Garth than in Hank, right? There's a lot of rock and roll elements drawn into there, and that's a truly American mix between rock and roll, country, and I think pop is really there's a lot of pop in country music today. I think we see a lot of cross-pollination there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't hate it. I do need to go listen to, I think Taylor Swift just redid one of her albums, and I haven't gone to listen to the new Taylor version of it yet, but I like how she did, I can't remember the name of the album. She did a country version of it and a pop version of it. This was, I don't even remember how many years ago. I liked both.
Well, you have such a positive nature, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter is going to look like for you as the concerts start to come back. And have you played any concerts recently, or what was the last live concert you played?
The only one we've done, I did a lot of virtual shows. We would do our Whiskey Wednesdays live on Facebook. Did a lot of those through COVID. We have started booking for late summer. Not quite, out there booking tours and booking anything just yet. Kind of just, letting some more folks let things get a little more settled down before we do that. But definitely looking forward to playing with my band again. We did one full band live stream. That was fantastic. It felt really good to play with my guys again and get that, feel again. That was really nice. But yeah, so we hopefully, late summer, fall, we'll be out there doing it again. But
well, fingers crossed, because I can't wait to watch artists like you who are so talented take the stage and give everything they've got to heal our souls. We've needed music and art more than ever than this COVID period, and that's one of the things that's been taken away from us. And while it's really important that artists are doing the Zoom and the streaming technology, it's just not the same. There's a personal touch to the live performance that we can't wait the returns.
I agree. The live streams were good for a bit, but then I think everybody was like, all right, we've had enough of that. We want to see this in person. So I'm definitely ready to do that for sure. We did played one show. It was for the Texas Regional Radio Awards show. I did play that acoustic show. Felt really good to get up there and play again. But yeah, as far as booking, we're going to hang tight just a little bit longer, but hopefully we'll be back out there for sure soon. As
the vaccine makes its appearance and spreads across the country, I know it's getting there. Our fingers are crossed that you're back on the stage by late summer. How can people find out more about you and your art?
Yeah, you can find me, look up robynshayne.com, ROBYNNSHAYNE. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the things, TikTok, all that stuff. But robynshayne.com, you can find a link to it all, and all my merch and CDs, and all the music is on Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, however you can buy a physical CD, all of that. robynshayne.com. Simple and easy.
Continued success, Robyn, and thank you so much for joining us on Music Matters, and we wish you all every blessing as you move forward to the next chapter of your career.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. Enjoy chatting.
All the best. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe our videos and like them and share them. We greatly appreciate that. And thank you for joining us. And remember, keep music alive.